Yo, what do you do? It's me. It's that wrestling dude coming to you live from a freezing Orlando, Florida. Nice 50 degrees out. Please send me warm vibes down here. Tonight we got a very special first time ever. We're joined by the dude from Snaps and Straps. Welcome, 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 man. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we hopped on, man, we're talking about down there, down south. These hurricanes hitting them up, ravaging through the Fort Myers Southwest, Southwest area. You're about to tell us a funny story, man. What was it?
Yeah. So this is actually off the the storms and shit. So I worked at Publix down there. I worked for Publix for about 18 years now. It's going on.
Damn.
So it's kind of hard leaving a company I'm so established in, and with like stocks and 401k
Yeah.
and all that. So I worked pretty much two jobs. This job's 24 hours, and then my other job, 40 hours a week. So it's a lot of dedication and a lot of hours, man hours. Providing our product for people and wrestlers and promotions. Um, but yeah, so working there down in South Florida, a familiar face you guys always have on, August. Uh, he was this was when I was like in seafood, and yeah, came up and uh, very chill. He's like, "Let me get a pound of shrimp." We love a pound of shrimp, and I was like, "Anything else?" And he's like, "Nah," and then walked away. So I've always wanted to tell him. I never really talked to him personally, like, but I've always wanted to tell him that story. Like, hey, 10 years ago, you bought a pound of shrimp off of me at Publix.
He probably had like 3 gallons of milk in the cart with him.
Yeah, especially down there, man. Down there is crazy. So, I mean, you had all aspects of just every type of race you could think of, and that was what was cool about Florida. Everybody, South Florida is just intermixed, man. There's everyone you can
Yeah.
think of, lives down there. So, personalities and the way Florida people do things, like, we're different,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
uh, I carry that with me to Nashville, and how I carry my company and how I am as a person. Like, it will always be in me. So as polite and as you know mature as I want to be, you just got that Florida dog in you, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to just get out.
Yeah. It's wild if you think about how crazy Florida is with the panhandles, like a different species, like Jacksonville, its own world over there, Miami, its own world. Like you wouldn't think of a state like this is spread out and broken up so much into different like demographics.
No, and like when I was a certified scuba diver at like 13 years old, and when people go hunting, it's just something's bigger than you out there that can kill you.
Yeah,
So when you do those 100 foot, feet dives, in the Gulf of Mexico, you've seen shit. I've seen
yeah,
black grouper bigger than school buses. You go 25 miles offshore, they're down there, and
that's
and
wild.
yeah, dude, and that's one thing I miss about Florida, is just that aspect of, if you want some type of fish, you just go out and get it.
Get it?
You didn't get it at the supermarket. You just went out and got what you wanted.
That's crazy. Deep sea fishing or scuba diving too in the Gulf. That's wild. I bet you've
Yeah.
seen some stuff. Why don't you let the people know what Snats and Straps are all about? What you guys do?
Yeah, man, we have been established for about four and a half years now. We customize championship belts. We do championship belts for multiple promotions. We've gotten into the belt buckle game. Being in Nashville, you make a lot of connections, and we've taken care of some country singers. Jelly Roll, Young Gravy has gotten belt buckles from us. So we've done more than what your average belt making company does. And what also sets us aside from other companies and other makers is we only deal with wrestlers and promotions. Um, we rarely make a belt for just a customer or
Yeah.
somebody off the streets. We take pride in our product and how we uh, sell our product. And you know being 4.5 years, I don't know anybody that's grown that fast and has been on almost every major wrestling promotion and independent promotion. That just goes to all the hard work that my team does, and the dedication that we have in doing this. We don't do this as for like a job. You know, sort of less like I'm a fan. I'm a wrestling fan. Belts were my thing when I was a kid. We didn't have like the actual Figs Inc. belts till 1998 was the first one issued. So I had to go from 94 to 98 without a real belt. So making wrestling belts out of construction paper
Yeah.
and some
Cardboard.
glue, duct tape. That was the closest thing we had to a belt. So when now rewind 30 years later, I get to do this for a living. And it's just it's so awesome. And
Yeah.
I get to work with multiple wrestlers, promotions, and it's fun. And like I said, we we're not that serious in the outside world of what people think and how we do things. If you have a good product, then I think that will prove itself, and we have. So shout out to my team and everybody that believes in us and likes our product, and as it shows, we've been everywhere. So
Yeah. How'd you get into making belts then? How'd you go from, selling seafood at Publix to August Artois to making championship belts?
crazy story. So this was during COVID, and I had watched a um, I don't know what you called it back then on Facebook, but it was like a buy sell trade kind of thing, like live. And
Yeah.
there was this wrestling fan that sold merch live, and it was anything. And he had Moose on his live, so he was selling boots, I think. And at that time, he had introduced the white TNA championship he had done, and this was after he had lost it to Kenny Omega. And I had messaged on the little board. I was like, "Hey, would you be interested in selling that TNA belt?" And he was like, "You know what? I haven't really thought about it, but I'll let you know." And so the guy actually gets involved, and he's like, "Oh no, like I'm gonna be the middleman in this. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna sell a belt, I want commission and this and that." So he privately messages me, and he's like, "Dude, I don't even know that guy." He's like, "So if you want the belt, let's do it." And so I can't get into really details, but um, something happens where he had a previous agreement supposedly, and so he had to give it back. And to the person that made it, I don't know the whole spew, but
Yeah.
so he felt bad because like I was ready to send him, I was ready to PayPal him, like it was game. And because at that time I was a huge belt collector also. I was one of the original, I think like 4 or 5 in the whole country that had every single Figs Inc. belt. Um,
Oh no shit.
from WCW to WWF, ECW, all the original ones you could think of, and they're all in mint condition. So that's how I got kind of recognized. And so when he had messaged me, he's like, "Hey, we're about to have a show in Nashville. Uh, I can hook you up with some tickets if you want to go." And I was like, "Hell yeah, I live in Nashville. Let's do it. Like, hit me. Let me get some tickets, bro."
Yeah, for sure.
Was because this was post COVID and right when the fans were allowed back into arenas and all that. So we get there, and prior to that, I what I wanted to do and this, I don't think anybody had really done this either, was to bring every single belt that promotion had to the show. So I had about a couple weeks to, about I think like 3 weeks to plan to get all these belts. So I hit up all these, belt groups and send out mass posts like, does anybody have this belt, this belt, this belt? So I eventually got every single belt that Impact had, and um, this guy named King, which is my business partner now, he had just re-leathered the Impact Tag Team belt, and I had hit him up and I said, "Hey, would you be interested in selling this? I'm going to the show." And he's like, "Yeah, man, sure." So we got made a deal, got all the belts, went to the show, and what I did was I attached them all on the guardrail. I was sitting front row, had all the belts, and all of a sudden, Scott D'Amore comes walking down to the ring. I think just to like look around and see what was going on.
Yeah.
And he walks by me, and he stops, takes a couple steps back, looks at me, looks at the belts, and goes, "Huh," and then keeps walking, and then sits down. And he gets on his microphone, and he's like, "Why in the fuck are all of our belts attached to the guardrail?" Ingrid, the floor manager for Impact TNA, said, "Those aren't ours. Those are the guys. That's that guy that's sitting right there." So he gets back up, looks at me, uh, says, "Nice looking belts." And I said, "Thanks." And then just goes back up the steps. So not even like 10 seconds later, the vice president for Impact, can't remember his name, but he used to wrestle, blondish hair. He comes down to the floor, and he's like, "No, I could take all these belts from you." And I was like, how do you figure?" And he was like, "That's our property." And I was like, "Well, under my, correction, you guys are a Canadian based company, so legally, the whole US Canadian thing, and I'm just a nobody, dude. I'm just a fan
Fan,
that
yeah, yeah.
loves your product, and I want to showcase it, and I thought, it'd be cool to have all your belts here." And he's like, "Oh, so you know a thing or two about, legal?" And I was like, "No, dude, I just know you guys are out of Canada." And he's like, "How much do you charge?" And I was like, "I mean, for a belt, like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just a belt collector. Like, all I do is collect
Yeah.
belts." And he's like, "Oh, interesting." And he's like, "Well, they look great. Would you be interested in talking tomorrow at our next taping?" And I was like, "Why, are you gonna like do something?" And he started laughing. And he's like, "No, we just want to cut. You just want you to come. We want to look at your belts some more." And he was like, "They look really good." And I was like, "Yeah, man, cool. I'll bring all the belts, and do I got tickets?" And he's like, "Yep, we'll give you your tickets to the same spot you're in, all that." And I was like, "Sweet." So next day comes, I show up, and I'm in the VIP family section. There was the regular ticket holders, and there's the VIP family. So I was on like the VIP list that Newsnet put me on, and all of a sudden the can't remember the commentator for Impact back at the time. It was D'Lo Brown and this other guy, and he comes out and he's like, "Hey man, can you come to the back?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we go in there, and he's like, "Make sure you bring your belts." And so I brought all the belts, and so we walk in the door, and there's this table, and he's like, "Yeah, just set all the belts right there." So I lay all the belts out, and then all of a sudden I get like a tap on my shoulder, and it's Scott, and he's like, "Hey man," and he's like stirring his coffee, drinking his coffee, and he's like, "So these are nice looking belts." And I was like, "Thanks." He's like, how did you get them so, to look so like ours?" And I was like, "I'm just a very OCD guy. I pay attention to detail.
Yeah.
Um, I made sure that, the belts I got, from these from were, correct, and etc." And so they grabbed the tag team belt, and they said, that, "Wow, this one's really nice." And I was like, "Yeah, this is my friend that did the leather on it." He's like, "This looks really good." It was spot on to what they had, that Top Row Belts had done. And he liked it. He was like, "Would you be interested in coming to Dallas?" Uh, and that was, I think, Hard to Kill was that pay-per-view. And I was like, yeah, sure, we can work something out. I can fly out there. So yeah, we want to have a meeting with you. And I was like, let's go. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, Trey Miguel taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, hey bro, I saw that X Division belt when I was wrestling last night. Shit looks dope. Don't say anything, but I'm about to win the X Division belt. Would you be able to do a custom one for me? And I was like, sure. And like I got you. Like I can figure this out.
Yeah.
And he's like, cool. Do you have an Instagram? And at that time, I didn't have an Instagram. I just had my Facebook. Just my own regular profile. And I was like, I don't have one, but I can make one. And so he's like, yeah, make one, hit me up, and we can, do a business, do some business. And I was like, sure. And so I get all the belts, and then we sit down, I put all of them on the guardrail, start making my Instagram. And all of a sudden, Ace Austin comes to the ring. And he gets up on the rope with Madman Fulton, and he's sitting up on the top rope. All of a sudden, he looks at me, and he looks at the belts, and he hops out of the ring. Now, this is like during his match. It's about to start. And he comes down, and he grabs the X belt. He's like, bro, this is a nice looking belt. He's like, can I get one of these? And I was like, sure. I was like, yeah. And he's like, you got Instagram? And I was like, I'm making one right now. And he said, yeah, hit me up, and we can work something out. So right then and there, that night, I have already made 2 sales. And, I'm just blown away by it. And so after the show, I called my friend Kane, and I was like, hey, would you be interested in maybe, making joining forces, and you make some belts for me, and do the leather? And he's like, yeah. This time he was doing like WWE belts, re-leathering just for his own personal collection. And he's like, yeah, who is it for? And I was like, well, there's 2 people. And he's like, yeah, who? And I was like, Ace Austin and Trey Miguel. And he's like, no fucking way. He's like, I live in fucking Ohio. They live like not even an hour away from me. Like, this is the coolest freaking thing ever. He's like, yeah, dude, I'll do it. And he jumped on board right away. And so we got to work. I hit up like every single plate maker that I knew that was good and that wouldn't try to like screw me over, or
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. And so I got with the right people. I had some pretty cool some great group of guys that helped me when I first started the process, that I knew weren't gonna screw me over. They're like, hey, go to this guy, do this, these are all the steps you need to do to make a belt. And so we ended up making the split red and blue for Ace Austin, and then we ended up making a custom belt for Trey Miguel. And I think we were the first ones to do this also. We stamped their logo in the strap. So like any logo that they had or they wanted, we would get that made by a designer out in LA, and then he'd send us the stamp for it. And so all my partner has to do is just take a sledgie and stamp it, and then boom, it's in the belt. And that's one thing that sets him aside from everybody else in the belt game. Most of them do press plates, where they take a machine and then they just go down and it cuts the strap, or they do like a laser cutter, where it laser cuts the strap. We're getting more high tech now as the years progress. So my guy, he's doing everything by hand. This is the most dedicated motherfucker I've ever known. His craftsmanship is just out of this world. Like the creative mind my dude has, and what we've done with just leather straps. We're the like I said, we're the first to do the custom logo stamp. I believe we're one of the first to do a half and half strap. The Wrestling Revolver Remix Championship is half red, half black in the front. Um, we do things that other people wouldn't do. We're not afraid to take risks, and he's nailed it every single time. He does a strap. I mean, it's up here. I'll show you right here. I got it right behind me. So this is the Wrestling Revolver Remix Championship, held by Jake Something right now. Um, as you can
Yeah,
see,
that's dope.
half red and then half black.
Damn.
And we did different tooling too. So you're seeing a lot of this now with a lot of belt makers is
Yeah.
the air shell tooling. He's the first one to ever do that. So if you see it on something that isn't his, it's been copied, and you'll have that a lot in this belt game, um, and that's just what people do. But as you can see, the other shell tooling,
Yeah.
rock shell, and then we have a red rock slip.
Back. Yeah, that's sick.
So this was, I think, Sammy Callahan's favorite belt. It's a lot of the wrestlers' favorite belt out of this. So like Gringo Loco was the previous champion. It was one of his favorite belts, and now Jake Something has it. Same thing, big fan of it.
That's a wild story falling into on accident. Like, hey, can you do this? Sure. Let me. I'll get right back to you, and just figuring it out on your own. That's awesome.
Yep. So, like I said, then it just was a snowball effect. Like I said, then Moose hit us up. Brian Cage. The list goes on. Jonathan Gresham. Like I said, we have such a wrestling client base. That I don't need to go out and be like, oh hey, buy my belt, or oh hey,
Yeah.
would you be interested? Like once you develop, your work starts showcasing for itself, and they'll come to you, as it
Yeah.
says. So
How does the creative side of that, the design aspect? They come to ideas with you. Do you have ideas sometimes and you just kind of swap, or how does that work?
usually, well, I have a designer. I got smart because when the first year and a half we started doing this, I was sitting at a table for 8 hours, uh, drawing a design a day, and it just got so tiring, and just the thought process of having to do it over and over again. I needed to hire somebody, so I have one of the best freaking designers in the country. He's actually in France. Um,
Okay.
uh, he is Parker Mania. He got known. He was on the UK photo holding I think the UK flag with WWE on it. That's how he kind of blew up. But he's also a tattoo artist over there, very popular tattoo artist. So he was on my radar to be our designers. Now we've done work with like Hellfire. He's the one that designed the new TNA championships. Shout out to him, and we've worked with a couple of different people. Brett makes belts, but now we solely have our own designer, and he just the stuff he does and the creative mind he has also. It's just a great team. I just honestly, I have my input in some things. There's some things that I might want to change, here and there, but usually like Parker is spot on with everything he does. So like I said, it makes my job a lot easier because having to deal with 50 people a day, it gets
Yeah.
it gets kind of tiresome. So I can just know that they got everything taken care of to where I can just focus on the business aspect of everything. Because it's a lot of work running a company.
Yeah, for sure. What's the hardest part then of the whole process outside of like the office stuff?
uh, Mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes that happen, and you'd be surprised how many eyes you'll have on something and you miss something still. You
Yeah.
have five people looking at it, and out of those five people, that one little aspect of detail will have a crucial effect on that belt or that finish of a belt, and it just ruins the whole process. And starting over, and one word can jeopardize a whole belt. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Have you had one of those projects where you just wanted to give up? Like, I'm over this, man.
Uh, I say never really had the like I quit. I don't. I was raised never to use that word.
Yeah.
So uh, I had a really strict childhood, which made me who I am, and I loved it. I had my dad was a cop for almost 30 years, so having that first time you're going out was like, hey, this is your warning, and I was like, what did I do? And
Yeah.
he's like, you didn't have to do nothing. That was your warning. So now he's trained me. I can't fuck up. So you know, it is true though about what they say about cops' kids and priests' kids. It is true. We are bad. Uh, you do get away. You do get away with a lot of stuff. I will say that. But I had a great childhood, and being able to have that wrestling atmosphere and being able to watch it. I know a lot of kids back then weren't allowed to watch because of the violence,
Yeah.
um, but I got to, and I was blessed enough to have a TV in my room growing up. And Monday night when WCW came on at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock,
8 o'clock.
uh, you had that hour of straight WCW. But when that 9 o'clock hit, the fireworks go off. It was fucking
Yeah.
Raw war, and it was so hard conflicting on which side I wanted to watch more, because when you went to commercial, you would flip back. Well, when both would be on commercial, you kind of left that TV on and you didn't fuck with it, and then all of a sudden like WCW was on for the whole time, and then you just watched WCW and forgot about WWF.
Yeah.
So growing up, it was WCW, then WWF, but gun to my head, I would picked WCW 96 to 90, 99, 01, and then Attitude Era when Vince bought out the company, and they did that crossover, and that after that I stopped watching.
Same.
I was so pissed that the championship belts from WCW got taken away, and a lot of the wrestlers got kind of pushed off the car out the door. So that really hurt me as a fan. Um, but Rey Mysterio was my dude from day one. That was the first wrestler I watched on TV when he was wearing that pink attire with the pink mask, wrestling Dean
Yeah.
Malenko on in Florida. Was it Pensacola, or Disney, Orlando, one or the other? I think it was Orlando.
Orlando. Yeah.
When Rey Mysterio went through the trailer. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the first. That was like the first time I watched wrestling, and I was hooked. And yeah, that was it. People don't know what it was like growing up in that era. Like they can watch it on past networks, but you don't know the feeling it was of watching wrestling, not being able to watch reruns, or not being able to you know get that getting to watch both of them at the same exact time. It,
Absolutely.
it was a struggle, so you had to pick. So and I always when you I can't say much on social media or on Facebook and all that. As a company, it's really hard for me because I was just a belt collector where I can run my mouth, say what I wanted to say, and I pissed a lot of people off in the beginning stages of being a belt collector, and that in turning into a company, a guy that belt collector into a belt owner, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I made a lot, like I said, I burned a lot of bridges in the beginning because of my nonchalant attitude towards finger typers. So, you know, and one thing you will notice too when dealing with social media is we go to wrestling shows. A lot of makers don't go to shows. And we're right there front row. Like I've never been, quiet, or in a sense of like I will tell people if you have a problem, I will be at the show. If you have something to say, I'll be at the show. I never hid, and I'll never be like that. So I've had a couple of run-ins where people said they were going to beat my ass on the internet, and then you catch them at a show, and oh, it's just the internet, bro. It's just the internet. I was like, no, my guy, this is real life.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I don't know, like I said, where we grow up and where we're from, if you tell somebody you're going to beat that ass, you better live up to that, because then if not,
Absolutely.
we're going to hunt you down, or we're going to find a way to get a hold of you. And I've always, whenever I've had a beef with somebody or I've had an issue with somebody, I always call them first. I never run my mouth online, and I never will type my fingers. I'll be the first one to call you and say, why did you say that? Because I'm never the one that's going to instigate something or start something. So I've learned that a lot. We have an advocate that I will send him, if I want to say something about somebody or say something, I have to send it to him before I can post it. So 9 times out of 10, it's no.
Yeah.
So, and that saved me a lot from a lot of these, staying under the radar. And, I said I'm mouthy. So, you know, being able to have somebody, and my business partner also will tell me, like, dude, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And you need that, because sometimes you do get a little, it does kind of hit you that when somebody talks about you. And because like I said, we do this for fun. Like, we're not looking for that publicity, and like, oh, buy our belts. Like, we don't have to do that. That's again, that's why when we started this company, I had rules. Like, we're not going to make copyrighted belts. We're not going to sell copyrighted belts. We're not going to sell to regular people. We're not going, and like, when you have rules in place and they stay set, your brand can build. And word of mouth is big these days, especially in wrestling locker rooms too. So if you stay on the right course and not be a douchebag, and be a good person and mean well, like, good things come to you. So
Absolutely.
you know like I said, I try to stay humble, and not run my mouth. And but like I said, you need people in your corner that will tell you not to do it rather than tell you to do it. So shout out to everybody that has helped me through that process too, because like I said, it could have been, and it's always been bad, till, like you said, you have somebody that tells you to shut up.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. You have somebody like that on your side that like kind of reel you in sometimes, because it's not worth it. Half these people are just looking for your reaction, and when you get bite into that reaction, like to me, I always give this example. Like, if you know this guy's stupid and you let a stupid guy get you, to me, you're a bigger idiot than the stupid guy, because you already know going into it that what they're looking for.
Yep.
So to drag yourself down to that level, you just make yourself look silly.
Yep, exactly.
What's been your favorite belt to make? The process of it all. Favorite one.
uh I'd have to say the AEW trios
The
championship we
trios.
did for House of Black. Um, working with those three guys, and personally working with Buddy. Um, Great guys. Shout out to Buddy and Malachi, another great guy. We got something special in store for him here this year. Uh, he opened up a wrestling school, and it's doing great. So we got a little special surprise coming this year.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, when you do these belts for these wrestlers and stuff, you develop a good relationship with them, and it's very cool that I can say that I worked with this wrestler, it's awesome, to a lot of these fans, they're like, oh my god, you talk to this guy, talk to this guy. You guys like, we don't talk about wrestling at all. We don't, I that's one thing I learned with a we family friend of ours played for the Milwaukee Brewers back in '05. Um, he became a star. He had the lowest ERA in the Brewers history,
Damn.
like 47 saves. He went to the All Star game with a point eight something ERA or yeah ERA. Uh, it and one thing like his wife would say like don't talk about baseball after he gets done. Like if he brings it up, he'll bring it up, but like don't go and start talking like baseball shit. Like he doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And it's just like our your job or my job or you're working at Publix all day, you're talking to customers all day, and then all of a sudden you gotta you know go to your friend's house and they're like, oh, well, how was work? Well, what do you think about this? And what do you think like you just got out of a 10-hour day, like you don't
Yeah.
want to talk about it, so that's one thing I never really mention. Like I'll just say great match, or I have a lot of them when I go to the shows. We're like, hey, record me, and 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 I'll all right, man. So I do all the cool moves and the finishers, and then they'll go and reshare it or they'll save it. A lot of them use it just to critique their wrestling. Mistakes they made or something they could have done different. So I'm more than willing. And that's one thing with like these indie shows. Everybody that's on like TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW, they're all at these indie shows. They're wrestling, and so that's one thing I wish more of the wrestling fans would take grasp of is go to I even made a post about this. Like if there's a local indie show in your area, go to it. If you love wrestling that much, then you don't mind spending $10, $20, and watching some wrestlers because you're a fan of them now, and then when they get big, they're gonna remember you because you rode with them that whole way they had to
Yes.
ride. The indie circuit is huge, and there's so much talent in the independent scene. That are just a year away from making it, a couple of years out from making it. So like, go and see these wrestlers perform. Before you got to pay the $600,000 to see them. At a big show. So that's my rant for indie wrestling.
And when you wrestling, and I co-sign on that, man. Because once I hit the first, I was actually a CCW show, someone you've been involved with. First one to hit them, like just a different atmosphere, different vibe. Because it's you used to go into the 20,000 seat arenas, and it's so different when you're so far back. You know what I mean? But when you're 5 rows back at an indie show like that, and these guys are putting everything out on the line for you, it's different. It's definitely different. To me, it's better.
Oh yeah. Yep, and that was one of the times where I got to meet some of these big stars and be like, hey man, if you ever win a belt and you need a custom job, hit me up.
Yes.
And sure enough, they win a belt and they remember you and they're like, hey man, I'm about to win this belt. That the only downside, and this is what's killed me for the last 4 years is knowing things like months out of what's gonna happen, and because someone might win a belt or they need a new belt, or this wrestler wants a custom belt because he's about to win a belt. So like that's one negative side of it, that I already know what's gonna happen, so it kind of like ruins me watching it because I
Yeah.
already know like what's gonna unfold. And legally I can't say like shit, so that just makes it even more you know distraught as I'm watching it, and seeing some of these predictions like, oh, this guy's gonna do this and that guy's gonna do that, and you're just like, no, it's not gonna happen. But I can't ruin the vibe. So yeah, that's one negative of doing it, but it's also a positive because then and nobody else knows. So it goes hand in hand.
Do you for those belts? Is it like a universal size? Or do you have to take consideration sometimes a guy's bigger? Like, because you mentioned House of Black, and those three guys are like different. Like, Buddy's a beast, man. He's like a brick wall, huge dude, and then Malachi's a little bit slimmer, and then Brody's the monster. Like, are they all the same sizes, or you got to take account for the different
You,
shapes?
you gotta take account for that, and it's again, I have a great dude that knows the belt game already. He's had a lot of great mentors. There was a guy, I think Lucky, that did the NXT tag team belts. The first when NXT first came out, Lucky Hands. He did the NXT belt and I think the NXT tag team belts, and that was actually uh, Kane's. We say master, and Lucky was or vice versa. Kane was the protege, and Lucky was the master, and so he taught him everything. So when the whole scene, this is from his story, but the whole leather scene, uh, it's very cutthroat, like the belt game. You have so many American leather makers that are doing this, and you know some of them are in like a group chat and others aren't, and so when you showcase a leather strap, like, hey, this is what I did, and like at the beginning he was getting dogged, like he's like, this looks like shit, this looks like
Yeah.
shit, you need to fix this, you need to fix that, and he'll even admit it, like he wasn't great, he was not good at all. But when you let your craft start, you give this man opportunities. I think it's been way over 100 belts. We did 50, we did 56 last year, and then we did 52 the year before that. So he's
Damn.
had, and then we got I think 24 lined up this year already. So like he's had time to craft his artwork, and like I said, this motherfucker does everything by hand. Um, Hand stitch the Wrestling Revolver Texas Championship. That's going to be, I don't know when that's going to be defended or whoever's going to win that, but it was such a good looking belt that Sammy was like, yo, I got to post this now. This belt looks so good. And he hand stitched everything, like how the big gold was stitched at the top and going around.
Yeah.
Hand stitched all that, and then he hand stitched WR at the end of the strap, and it was like perfect. It looked exactly like the logo. It was spot on. So like I say, he does a really good job in the leather side of it. So he's his leather and his craftsmanship is what makes the belt. So it's great.
I saw that Texas one. The Texas one looks sick too.
Yeah, that was his idea, and some there's some things because I'm about the leather straps too, and when I had brought his to his attention, I was like, it's a remix belt. So when we were doing the remix belt, I remembered the commercial of the Twix, uh, the one where there was two buildings and they're both Twix, but one was one side, one was the other, and they had a conflict or whatever, and
Yeah.
they were calling each other. I can't remember the whole commercial, but that was actually my inspiration of doing a half and half strap because of the Twix. It was Twix remix. It was when
Yeah.
Twix had the remix bar. So that was my whole vision of that. And at first he was like, "You really think that's gonna be a good idea?" And I was like, "Trust me, I think we're gonna do something." Like I said, nobody's ever done this before, so I was like, "This is gonna be something big," and it turned out to be the best thing, and it's one of their favorite titles out of Revolver. Um, so yeah, it was like we have great creative minds here, and like I said, it makes my job a hell of a lot easier.
It's good to surround yourself with a good team, man. It's rare to find,
Definitely.
especially so quickly. I know you got to get out of here. You got to go hop on something else. Go ahead and put them over. We're gonna be on in 15 minutes. What can I catch you? Want to keep it going?
Wrestling culture. I will be on there here right after I get off with you. They're doing great things over there. Uh, I was on there previously with a breakdown of like opinions of championships and stuff. So now I actually get to go on there for one of my own belts. So
Nice.
pretty cool. Very, like I said, I'm grateful for everything that's happened this weekend, and my team is, and you know, we love doing this, and you know, there's a lot more to come. I will say, I have a couple JCW belts coming. Violent J have gotten a hold of me, and we're doing some pretty dope belts. So be on the lookout for a couple new belts here coming this year. And like I said, we're all over. We got a few new promotions that are happening. So you're gonna, you know, if you don't like us, sorry, you're gonna be seeing us a lot.
Those JCW belts are probably gonna be crazy.
Dude, wait.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I have to keep it under wraps per Violent J. I've been so eager to just showcase anything, and yeah, he told me not to, so it's been really hard.
That's good, man. Make people wait. Where can they find you at if they want to check you out?
You can find us here on Instagram, The Real Belt Collector, or Snaps and Straps. You type in either or, it'll work. Facebook, Snaps and Straps LLC, and that's pretty much it, man. We stay very low key, and you know, if you need to get a hold of us, you know, hit us up on Instagram. That's where we are at majority.
That's all you need when you're putting out quality work, man.
Hey, man, it's a breeze. I love it, man. So grateful.
All right, man. Appreciate you coming on. Go check them out. Thank you guys for tuning in, man. You guys have a good night. Go ahead.
I got one more story for you.
Go ahead, please.
How did you I got actually a couple questions. How did you get into wrestling? What was your first match you saw? And then how did you hear about CCW?
First one, I've always had people on. They always tell me the moments they have. I don't have a match. I don't have a moment. I just have memories like Lex Express, Yokozuna slamming him. I remember during the Clown, but I think like the earliest memory is probably that Lex Express slamming him with the whole Yokozuna buildup, which is what, 92, 93, I think. Yeah. So I was like 7 years old, and that's probably the earliest like that I can far back. That I mean, I remember the Rockers, and I think the Rockers were a little bit earlier than that, but for the most part, Yokozuna, man, that was the main one. And then CCW, just me and my homeboy Ginger were just scrolling through Instagram. We saw they're having a show out in Kissimmee, out in here in Central Florida. So we just went out there, man. I just got kind of hooked on that on the whole indie scene, just by going to that CCW show.
If you ever want to go to a show in the future, just let me know, man. I'll leave you tickets at the door. Just
okay. I appreciate that.
I got you on tickets. Because yeah, man, you saying that, you know, put them on, you know, right there, and you know, Nelio, the owner, is great, man. Does great work. He just had Malachi Black on there last week on the show. So he brings in the stars. Like I said, we have Nashville territory that's going to be starting this year. 3 weeks out of a month. Like I said, they'll be in Nashville, and then like I said, they're all over Florida. Kissimmee is one of their main stages. But yeah, man, that's so cool. And like I said, if you ever want to go to a show, man, just let me know, and I got you on tickets.
No, I appreciate it. I like supporting anyways. I like paying for the tickets. Hopefully it goes back to the boys somehow.
I got you. Nelio's got a check, so waiting for
they are doing big things, man. I'm surprised, man. They're putting on shows in different cities every month, every week, it seems like. And I think they just had a double header in 2 different cities on a Friday night. What was it, last week or the week before?
Yeah, they were in Nashville, and then they had the Kissimmee one.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Think about how they're doing, man.
Yeah, he might not even be at the shows. He could be at home because he's been a little sick. He had the Rona this past week, so he was supposed to be in Nashville for the tag team match, but he couldn't make it. So he was at home, and we were talking, and I was like, I thought you were supposed to be on your first class flight to Nashville. He's like, man, like I couldn't get up, man. You know, the Rona's killed Nelly. I was like, yeah, but the Rona hasn't killed Vinicius. Where's Vinicius at? I need Vinicius here. He's like, Vinicius is dead.
I remember Vinicius. That's him. That's him?
Yeah.
Am I dumb? Under the mask? Am I dumb? Like you just said it. I'm like, holy shit! It is him.
For I want to say 3 months, 4 months. I had no idea it was that motherfucker. No
Yeah.
idea. And after the show, he was all sweaty and shit, and he still had his ring gear on, and I was like, "Are you Venetius?" And he's like, I was like, "What the fuck?" Did not tell.
It's like when you said that, like the mask in my mind slowly came off, and then the big reveal. I'm like, holy shit, it is him.
Crazy, but yeah, I'm glad you didn't know that, but now you know.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Damn. Learned something new today. Appreciate it.
But yeah, man, thanks again for having me on, bro, man.
Absolutely, man. It was absolute blast, man. Get you on again because I got a list of other questions. Well, I'd like to go down East Bell and give me an opinion on all that stuff. So I'll hit you up, get you back on.
Yeah, man, definitely, dude. Can't wait. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good night, man.
Yeah, you too, bro. Thank you.
Yes, sir.